Hi, my name is Kiran Rowley Roberts. And no, that's not my last name. So many people think my middle name is Rowley, as if any sane parent would actually name their child Rowley. But I rolled a car when I was 14 and the name stuck with a few close friends. Not many people call me that. Most people actually call me Kiran Rowley. But my middle name is actually Venkatesh. And it's the name of my grandfather, who was an Indian man, hence why it sounds so strange. And I remember being so self-conscious of it growing up. People would ask my name and I'd tell them, and you can guess what happens next. They laugh. As you would. Why wouldn't you laugh? It's funny. But you learn to live with it, and then you learn to accept it, and then you learn to claim it. I'm sure you've been on a journey like that where you have gone from having a weakness to turning it into the very thing that makes you strong. And it taught me a lot. Having a name like Venkatesh, a middle name like Venkatesh, creates a resilience within you from a very young age that stays with you forever. And growing up, I was a very vulnerable child, I think. I wasn't very athletic, like my father and like my brother or my cousins, or my whole family is athletic, and I love sport, but I'm just not an athlete. So I had to rely on other things to get attention. I had to rely on other things to become popular, and I was a popular kid in primary school. I was the class clown, but the clown that could work just enough to make everyone laugh but not have the teacher hate me. I was basically a comedian, a storyteller, and I've built my entire life on story. And there's a big issue when you build your life on story, and that's that the story can become the focus, and when the story is the focus, it can be easily embellished to the point of lying. And I remember times growing up where I would outright lie to my mum and dad. Outright lie. As a way to connect with people and tell a bigger and better story than that which I had on my own. I tell a story all the time about playing AFL on the football field, and I desperately wanted to be seen. And my dad was teaching, and as I said, my dad's an athlete, and I think I've always felt insecure about the fact that I was never an athlete and he was. And so we're playing AFL, and I'm there, and I'm getting the ball. I'm doing the best I can. I was a small kid. I'm chasing the ball back and forth. I'm doing the best I could. And I remember the ball's coming towards me. So I line up to take the ball. It's called a mark, for those of you who don't know. And I grab the ball, and all of a sudden, I felt this knee in my back. And someone was doing what's called a specky, where they run up behind you, and they drive their knee in your back to get some height to catch the ball, to mark the ball. I remember feeling this knee in my back and crashing to the ground, and I thought, this is my chance to be part of a bigger story than the one that I was living. So I laid there. No joke, I laid there like a dead fish. I covered my head, and my dad is on duty, remember. My dad is the teacher. He runs. He runs over. Get away from him, don't touch him. I could have broken my neck for all he knew. I was fine. I was trying to write a story bigger than the one I was in. So I put my hand over my face, I put my head in my arm, and I lay there, dead silent. And before I know it, everyone's around me. Dad's saying, get off, stay back. Are you all right, Kiran? Silence. I don't say a word. So 2-3 minutes goes by, and all of a sudden I hear those fateful words, call an ambulance. And at that moment I knew I was in too deep. There is a point in every story where you're in too deep. And I was way too deep. And I knew I couldn't get out, so I just laid there. The ambulance is being called and I don't make a sound. If there was ever a time to move or a time to, call my bluff, it was now. But I don't move because, to me, I'm in too deep. And remember, I'm trying to write this amazing story that I want to fit myself into, and it is building and building and building and building and building. Ooh, 2 ambulances come. 2. They end up getting me off the field. I'm laying there, All the while, my dad is he's a very composed man. He's not hysterical. He's not panicking. He's composed. He has assessed the scene. He's got everyone back. He's cordoned off the area. The ambulance comes. He directs them. He tells them exactly what happened, and they take me away. And this whole time I am stressing because I am lying. I'm lying to everyone. And it's at some point I'm lying that much, I almost convince myself that I am hurt. They end up taking me to the hospital and they do all the tests on me, and literally this is what happens. They come to me and they say, nothing's wrong. This is confusing. We've done all the tests. You don't seem to be in pain. The 12-year-old me thought this was genius. I remember sitting up on the bed, shirt off, looking like an absolute loser. I lifted my hands in the air and I said, "Praise God! I'm healed!" Without a word of a lie, my mum and the nurse stared at me shocked. And, I maintained the lie for years, up until a few years ago when I told my parents, and I told them so I could use it as a lesson, an object lesson. I didn't tell them because I wanted to tell the truth necessarily. But I only told them a few years later. I kept that lie deep down into my soul. And it all stemmed from me being vulnerable. It all stemmed from me being insecure. And that has been the story of my life. I am a very confident person in who I am, but I have some deep insecurities. Even doing this right now, for many of you who know me, you have seen me up the front preaching, you have seen me up the front talking, and I'm confident. And I walk with the Spirit of God guiding me and going before me. But this is different. I have real insecurities about the way I speak. Firstly, I have a crowded mouth, meaning I have too many teeth in my mouth for the space I have, and I was meant to get braces growing up, but it didn't work out. Financially, it wasn't going to work out, so I neglected it. I didn't do it. And it's caused a lot of trouble. I have crowding, which causes me to find it hard to articulate my words. I have to swallow a lot. You'll hear me on F words, and it just is a mess. And on the stage in front of people with speakers on either side, it's not so bad, but this is a podcast. And so I'm worried that you might notice, or have already noticed, and are tuning out as we speak. But the one thing that my faith has taught me, the one thing that my God has taught me in my journey to accepting who I am and realizing that the greatest story isn't even me, it's Him, and I'm just a part of it. And I don't need to lie or prove anything to anyone when I know I'm part of the greatest story ever told. What He has taught me is that when you accept who you are, your weaknesses and your insecurities actually become the very thing that He uses to point back to Himself. Because now I can't walk within my own confidence. Now I can't speak and preach behind my own strengths. I have to rely on God. He is now my distribution. He is now the filter. He is now the thing that is helping you look past my weaknesses to the words that He is trying to speak. And people will leave. Today alone I lost 5 followers on Instagram, and it's never been about the followers, but just recently I've been putting out more content about faith and Jesus, and it's funny, and I find it interesting that when I speak about Jesus, people leave. And I don't see that as a negative thing because, as I said, I'm not after the numbers. I find it interesting because wasn't that the life of Jesus? So many times He spoke and people just left. They checked out. They couldn't handle it. They didn't want the truth. They wanted to live their lives behind the lie, just like I did. But it only can last so long. You can only lie so long to yourself, to your family, before the truth of who you are is exposed. And if you don't have something deeper to be able to reconcile that and live through it and make it something that actually propels you further, you will fall to the wayside and your mental health will be absolutely shattered. And for me, that's my God. I now take stock and I take confidence in knowing that I don't have to pretend anymore. I don't have to be someone I'm not. I can sit here and I don't sound like a voice artist. I don't sound like someone in a studio. I don't sound like I will ever be on a Disney Pixar movie, but what I have is the truth of my life, that Jesus saved me, that God came forth and rescued me when I was telling my own lie. I have that truth and you can never argue with that. You may disrespect me, you may discard me, you may never listen to me again. But I have God on my side. And my truth is that His truth is louder than the weaknesses that I have, than the vulnerabilities that I accept. And now I'm living a different story. And this podcast, if anything, is a testament to the fact that you can doubt yourself till the end of the finish line. You can doubt yourself all the way home. But God will be there for you. And this podcast, if anything, is a testament to the fact that when you look to God, when you look to Him over yourself, it doesn't matter what you see in the mirror. It doesn't matter what you hear in the microphone. It doesn't matter because it's about Him. And He will use all those things that you see wrong to propel the gospel, to propel the message of love, and people will be changed. I fully believe that. For so long, I thought my entire ministry was caught up in me being a pastor. Do you know how short-sighted that is? And you may be feeling the same thing. You may feel like you've studied for 4 years, or you've done this, or you've done that, and your whole calling and ministry is tied up in one thing. It is tied up in so much more when you accept and embark on the ministry and the calling of God over the ministry and calling of your career. Because now I'm embarking on the journey of my weaknesses, of my vulnerabilities, and I'm rejoicing in the fact I'm losing followers, and I'm rejoicing in the posts that don't get many likes, and I'm rejoicing in the criticism because it isn't about me, it's about God. And you cannot argue with the truth. And so I may get it wrong, you may get it wrong, but God is never wrong. And my mission for this podcast is to share as much of the truth that I can articulate, is to share as much of the love that I can articulate. And I want to be like Jesus. I want to take this microphone and go interview people on the streets about their truth and their journey and their walk of life. I want to talk to people about their vulnerabilities and their stories and their failings. And I want to package that in the story of Jesus. So come along with me. Let's journey together. Let's talk about life. Let's live life. Let's listen to the stories of other people so that when you go out into the world to tell people about the Jesus that changed your life, you actually know what they're thinking. And let's do life together. I have nothing but love for each and every one of you. If you message me with criticism, I will still love you. And if all of you unfollow me and all that's left is me, myself, and I, it will still be worth it because I have God. I don't need you, and you don't need me when you have God. God bless you. See you next time.